Good morning, everybody. I will start the live stream in just a little bit here. Read the disclaimer, go over it. I'll probably start it up here in a few minutes. All right, how's everybody doing this morning? Hope you're doing well. Yes, I started a little bit earlier, just because particularly I've already been up for a while, and we've had a news event driver, so I at least want to go over what is happening before the open, before we roll into the morning. Thank you, Shahir. Yeah, if he attends, that'd be very cool. Everybody can hear me clearly. It's good. Make sure if you can, please like the video. It's the only thing I ask, so we can put it into the YouTube algorithm. And then let me know when I switch over to the charts if you can see it. So let me know if the audio is good, the picture is good. And if that is so, then we will get rolling with this morning. Good morning, Emmanuel. I'm doing well, brother. Hope you're doing well. It is a good morning. Blessed to be alive. Let me pop out the chat in here. Let's try to shoot for some all-time highs today, yeah? In terms of viewership. Now that ICT isn't live streaming, my bro was taking all my viewers yesterday and the day before, which is all good. Hope you guys enjoyed the live stream from him. I think it was a really good learning lesson. I stated yesterday on Daylog, I think that man's playing chess, not checkers. He's way ahead of the curve, so call me delusional, but that's what I think. Picture and audio is good. Cool. Roosta, good to see you. Will Trade, Raul, Yoshi, Jay, Henry, everybody, Spicy, good to see you this morning. Hope you're doing well. Yes, sir. I start every morning like that. The last time we talked about God here, some dude got upset at me. He said, I'm unsubscribing, I'm leaving. I said, all right, man, God bless. Not that I'm sitting here preaching, but I found that hilarious. All right, so let's get into some charts here. Good morning. Today is a great day. Make sure to like the video. Yeah, we're not gonna go into that discussion today. Let's focus on some charts, some positivity today. I don't want to go into a discussion. It's been a discussion in my chat for 2 days now. Let's go out some higher time frames. Let's get a perspective. Let's go over what we're looking at today and what we're rolling into. So if you haven't been watching the daily logs, I highly suggest you do so. Most people don't do that, but I think they're very crucial. If you're going to go into the next day, you would already know what I'm thinking. But of course, I'm going to go over what my bias is, what I'm thinking going into this session. So I've talked about having the adjustment contract changes on. I personally have it on because I can see that we've reached above the buy side liquidity here on the daily and the weekly time frame. So technically, parentheses, we've made all-time highs. Knowing that and rolling into today, what I'm looking at is, do we want to climb above this wick in here and create a new high? I'm not particularly wanting to pick a top. That's not what we do here, especially in an overall bullish narrative on a higher time frame standpoint. I'm not trying to pick a top. So what I'm looking at is there enough evidence for me to continue pushing this long today? And do we climb above yesterday's high? If not, do we have some sort of retracement off of the basically the CE of this wick in here, right? So looking at the equilibrium, you could say CE of this wick, we're digging up into that currently. So I'm curious to see, which I want to make these black. Give me 1 second. I'm curious to see if that provides any sort of, I guess, resistance to price, and do we see any sort of displacement away from that area? But again, I would need some really clear evidence, so I'd want to move off lower and we'd want to sell short, because otherwise I'm just going to stick with the bias that is bullish. There's no reason for me to try to pick a top in here. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm going to make this visible on the lower time frames. So you have to keep that in mind, that this buy side liquidity pool has been ran. Not that we can't run higher and make a new high, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. And keeping in mind that daily wick. So we have buy side liquidity ran there. We do have the buy side here. Same thing with the 4 hour. I'd be marking out this wick in here kind of as some levels and kind of splitting that up into some quadrants, or at least 3 of them, which is the close here, the 50%, and then the high there as well. So we dropped down into this fair value gap yesterday. Look at the bodies and the way they're closing. Still respecting price. So I'm not, again, trying to pick a top in this market. I'm not trying to sell short. Sticking with the narrative is going to protect you way more than you trying to counter the narrative. And especially if you stick with the narrative, then you're weeding out a lot of trades that you wouldn't be taking. Because if you do see a short setup, but you're overall bullish, then you just disregard that short setup. And ICT was talking about this yesterday on the live stream. So I think it's very, very important. It's very key. So if we do want to climb ultimately higher today, let's say we do, buy side liquidity pool would be there. Do I see this as a bearish order block? Not necessarily, because the order flow is bullish. So if we are in fact bullish, then we're going to run over that bullish order or that bearish order block. So you have to have any PD array is going to be valid due to the order flow that it's in. If it's not bullish or bearish, then it's not a valid PD array. It's just simply that a point in price where it could have a short-term retracement, it could stall, or just simply be accumulating. So inside of here, we do have a lot of sell side resting underneath us from overnight. So that does make me weary of the pushing longs today. And I just want to see how we open and how we gravitate towards into the silver bullet hour. Because again, that's the emphasis of this live stream, is the silver bullet and looking for that window of time. Excuse me, I'm drinking some water. But just annotate the sell side, be aware of it, that it's resting underneath us. Thank you. Yes, weary. Maybe I just pronounced it weirdly. So we have a fair value gap in here. If we truly are bullish, we would treat that as an inversion. So just keep an eye on that going into this hour and into the next one. Premium, fair value gap resting there as well. And I'm just marking out all of our levels that price could trade into, or from, or away from. Looking at a 15-minute time frame in here. I'm going to take this away. Sell side liquidity there. This is all from overnight. So playing devil's advocate, because I don't have a clear view currently. I could make a case for both sides personally. And the reason for that is we have sell side underneath us. We're moving into Thursday, which if you're looking at a weekly template, looking at a weekly profile, you have to think in terms of, all right, well, is the high of the week already set, or are we going to make a new high of the week going into today and tomorrow? And leaving the fact that we have 2 days left, I mean, it's still very possible that we run and we make a new high of the week. But if yesterday, Wednesday, was the high of the week, let's just play devil's advocate, and we're just returning into a premium from this dealing range high down to this low, and we're inside of a premium, we could drop off lower and attack sell side. So for me, in order for me to be extremely bullish is, A, if we drop down, let's say into this fair value gap in here, and I saw a sudden displacement away, and I saw enough evidence with SMT dollar correlated with it, and I wanted to move higher, and there's enough evidence for that, then I would look for longs and try to target that buy side there. If not, and I see the open and we immediately just drop off lower in here, then I would likely believe that we're going to run for the sell side in here. I think these lows are a little bit too clean, especially those relative equal lows in here. There's just nothing, at least on a 15-minute time frame. You know, now I'm looking at it. What is this? So we have a high, a low, a higher high, then a lower low. So this entire range is a bearish order block, or bearish breaker, I'm sorry. Particularly, I'm just going to be highlighting that area in here. Then we have a SIBI that we did get above in here. So all I'm really doing at this moment in time is I'm going to be waiting, particularly for time. I've talked about this a lot, where if you're unclear on a bias, if you're not very certain on where price should draw to that day or that session, just let time do the work for you. Let time play out. If you miss the best entry, the most optimal entry, that's fine. There's still so many ways to get in this market to where if you're unsure, just let time do the work for you to where you can figure out, all right, with clarity, where price should go to. And that's the way I'm viewing this morning is I could make a case pretty clearly for both sides personally. So what I'm doing is I'm just waiting to see with time, with enough evidence, where I should draw to. Looking at a 5-minute time frame in here, all I'm doing is I'm marking out all of these inefficiencies in price. So everything from yesterday, I'm drawing out and extending to the right of me. So the fact that we closed above this inefficiency, this fair value gap there, we closed above it, we can treat it as an inversion. Now, that doesn't automatically mean that you're bullish and you should be looking for longs, but if we start continue going higher, and we climb above this SIBI in price, treat that as inversion, look to see if that would be treated as support. Same with this one, and then the buy side liquidity. So all we're really doing this morning is waiting for the open, waiting for the silver bullet, particularly. So hopefully that makes sense. It's clear. It's top-down analysis, basically from the daily, weekly, all the way down to a 1 minute. Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Luca. Breaking news, ICT is going mad on Twitter. Okay. I got a lot of notifications on Twitter. So I'm reading some tweets from ICT. Yeah, I mean, I think he's just letting everybody know what's going on with him. Something that I could bring up. Good morning, Selink. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. No, that's all. You didn't miss anything. You're fine. Something I could bring up is the dollar index and kind of looking at that as well. And then, while we have time, I could bring up the SMT chart so we all are in accordance today. Good morning, Amigo. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. All right, so dollar index. I've talked about this for FEG. Yeah, they have no idea. For those who haven't been following along, in terms of dollar index, I've been looking for lower prices overall on this because if we're looking for higher prices on index futures, particularly when we were, I mean, now that we've reached above the buy side liquidity on NQ, it could give it a brief moment to have a retracement. But as far as dollar index, I would like for this thing to drift off lower. It's just been very lethargic, very stagnant, not willing to move lower or higher. So to me, it's not a lot of use right now, but it's something I'm at least eyeing and keeping an eye on if it starts to move in one particular direction, because that can influence NQ and the other indexes. But this weekly time frame order flow to me is really the parent and what I'm working with in terms of getting an analysis from it, because we're still working the mean threshold of this bearish order block, which is inside of a premium from this dealing range high down to this low. So I can't disregard the fact that we're inside of this weekly time frame parent order flow and inside of this mean threshold bearish order block. I can't disregard that, and I can't automatically call for longs in here just because we're inside of a daily fair value gap. I could make a case for both ways right now. It's still 50-50. My particular liking and what I would like to see is dollar index drop off lower. But if I don't get that, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I can't make money. It just simply means that I have to adjust to whatever dollar index is providing. It could just stay sideways the rest of the week, which I wouldn't doubt it. So in here we have this BISI. So from that low, basically to that high with a small volume imbalance resting in there. I'm just curious to see what plays out today and over the next week. From the looks of it, I don't like the rejection and the closure of yesterday because we dropped down lower, closing higher. We could send it off into this buy side liquidity pool, and we have an inefficiency above price. So the only thing that's holding my bearish bias together would be that weekly time frame order flow. And there's just not enough information for me currently to make a hardline decision. I'm going to stay leaning on the idea that we want to move off lower because of the sell side liquidity and because of the weekly time frame. Logically, it just makes sense, especially with index futures moving higher. That's what I'm leaning towards. Does it mean that I couldn't change it if something appears and gives me enough evidence that it wants to move higher? Of course, I could just change it in real time and get into sync with whatever order flow is doing. So right now, it's, to me, 50-50. I could easily see the side where we run for buy side. I could easily see the side for sell side. But you have to lean on something. You have to lean on at least some type of analysis and be like, all right, well, I'm going to lean on the idea of bearish prices. And if it keeps disregarding that fact and I don't see evidence for it anymore, then obviously I'm going to look for higher prices. So that's dollar index. I don't think it has much influence currently because we're range bound. SMT, let's go ahead and look at that in a general aspect. Get some water. Good morning, Wolf. Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Luis. Good morning, Harris. So in terms of SMT and what we're looking at, let me make sure the stream's still good. All right, it's still good. In terms of SMT and looking at everything, it depends what you have on. Personally, I have the adjustment on, but on the SMT, I only have the actual March contracts on, so we're not going to see all the old data over here. But if we look at lower time frames and trying to get a perspective, let's look at the correlation between NQ, ES, and YM. So yesterday, we saw that huge sell-off because there was a bearish SMT while ES and NASDAQ were both taking out buy-side liquidity pools. So you can see in here, if I go down to a 1 hour time frame, we have relative equal highs on YM. But yesterday, if you saw right at this time, ES and NQ were both making higher highs while YM failed to make that higher high. So two of them were doing something while one wasn't. And that's a bearish SMT. Just a confluence, but it's the reason why we saw the sell-off and something that you could have observed yesterday. In terms of today, this is what I like to do in looking at everything. ES has some really clean, smooth, relative equal lows in here. So I'm curious to see if at one point, either this week or next week, it would want to run for the sell side. And even overnight, a lot of relative equal lows on ES. So we'll have to see if ES wants to drift off lower, take out the sell side liquidity. If that is true, NQ may want to follow suit, and same with YM. So going over all the indexes and where their liquidity sits and where they're currently resting at is important, especially if you're only trading one asset class. It's important to at least look at the other two crosses and see where they're standing in terms of liquidity and where their kind of narrative's at. Let me know if the stream is buffering at all. Seems like connection says poor. Let me see in here. Is that an indicator? Yes, it's an indicator. I think you're talking about particularly this candle that appears on my chart. Uh-oh. I will get to your question in a second about turtle soups. It's actually hilarious how yesterday there just wasn't as many viewers, and because of ICT, and the amount of questions I got was actually just nice to be left alone with not so many questions. Not that you shouldn't ask, but if I don't get to your question, it's because I'm trying to either focus or there's already too many questions. In terms of the turtle soup question, I will read the question over again just so I'm clear. Yeah, exactly. For me, turtle soups are not an entry pattern I particularly like, nor do I find them high probability. And there's a few reasons for that. Because A, what you're saying is you're predicting the high or low of whatever the run is. The only way I've found turtle soups, and I don't enter off of them, because A, I'm content enough where I know if price displaces away after taking out buy side or sell side liquidity, I can position myself in the market with many various ways. We have so many tools in our tool shed from ICT where I never fear of missing an entry. So that's A. B, turtle soups, they're hard to predict because A, you don't know when it's going to stop. You don't know whether that's the real true high or that's the real true low. The only way I've ever found them to be true is if price is taking out buy side or sell side liquidity and it's trading into a higher time frame inefficiency or a higher time frame PD rate, like an order block, a breaker, whatever it is, then I could find that semi-high probability. But again, I would still like for price to displace away from that point of interest and leave my model or my pattern on lower time frames, that signature there. And then I could enter into the market. And that to me is confirming the idea that it is a turtle soup. We are running out sell stops or buy stops, and we are displacing away from that higher time frame inefficiency. And sometimes you don't have a higher time frame inefficiency to work with after you've taken out buy side or sell side liquidity. So to me, they're just a very hard entry pattern to work with, especially for a newer student. And that's all I really have to say. I don't want to go on a tangent too much. Hopefully that answers your question. Am I able to lower my latency? The problem with that is the stream is going to buffer even more for me if I lower my latency. So, I mean, so far what I've seen is it can go from about 18 seconds to 30 seconds delay up to a minute at times, which it's really not that big of a deal. All right, so we got about 5 minutes until the open. And really what I'm looking at today is there enough evidence for price to continue higher and displace into this buy side liquidity pool? And what would confirm that to me? Well, I want to see how the open trades. If we continuously keep pressing higher, even if we move into this upper premium region, I'm still fine with it. I'm still okay with missing out on that because we very well could just drop off lower during the open. So I'm not fearing missing any entries or fearing, that I could position myself better. So I'm going to try to turn off all the Wi-Fi in my house. What's going on, Romer? Good morning. I know the stream's probably buffering, which is fine. Let me see here. Why don't you try next time to stream only 1080p and the delay would be better with the buffer? Well, A, I'm not super tech savvy with this whole streaming stuff. B, I have a widescreen monitor, which it makes it very difficult to get that resolution correct. So I've did a lot of adjustments to be able to, for you guys to be able to see the screen clearly, and it's not stretched out and it's not like morphed, because streaming on a wide screen is very difficult, especially with OBS. It makes things very difficult. That's the issue I've ran into. Roman, I don't know if I said good morning to you, but good morning. I was going to say something, but I kind of lost my train of thought. That's alright, I'll probably come back to it. Oh, the SMT chart is that indicator? No, you just have to click the compare button wherever this compare is. It's probably a plus button, and then you're going to add 2 other ones. Bum, bum, bum. So we have about 2 minutes until the open. Thank you, Dewan. I appreciate that. That's what I was going to say. Everybody, please like the video. That's the only thing I ask. Please, I appreciate it. Because we're sitting at only 94 and there's 300 of you in here. So please like the video. As we move into this open today, I just want to see how we react off of these premium SIBIs up here. So if you look to the left, you on the 5 minute, all these are premium levels. We've gotten above this one, treated as an inversion. Accidental, you're alright, man. We're just moving into the open here. I just opened the stream up a little bit early today. There we go. There's the likes, people. Thank you. Alright, so as we move into the open, I want to see, do we immediately just displace higher from here? And if that is true and we start moving towards this buy side liquidity pool, then we may be able to look for some type of entry to go higher. But if we drop off lower, then I have to start doing some delegating in terms of if we truly are bullish. Marco, that's alright, brother. I understand. I've been in school and training as well. Just do the best that you can. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Sahir. So we have this inefficiency on the 15 minute here with that inversion above it. And I talked about this basically at the beginning of the stream is we could utilize this to move higher, but I'm not trying to prematurely enter this market, to be honest with you. Because I could very well see this trade right through that inefficiency and move into the sell side, resting beneath us. We also have the 5 minute here as well. Yes, there's going to be some buffering. I apologize. I mean, just the internet sometimes. Some days it's really good, some days it's bad. I've done everything I can on my end to make it the best I can, so I do apologize. And I'm not going to try to give it a lot of energy, because I'm trying to focus on trading rather than the stream, to be honest. So we've dropped down into this 15 minute and the 5 minute as well. I just want to see if this is going to truly take us out of this inefficiency in here. Abraham, okay. Thank you for that. Is that an orange folder? I'm pretty sure. Amy, what time am I expecting the silver bullet? I mean, it can happen anytime within the silver bullet hour. I don't particularly know when an entry would form within the silver bullet, but between my 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Yeah, it seems like my connection is excellent now, so I don't know. I don't know how it goes from poor to excellent all the time. Hopefully it stays like this. So we're not doing anything, we're not touching. All we're doing, at least for me, is I'm just observing price, and I'm trying to gain a read on it. I've talked about this every single stream. If you're new here, then it's the reason why I'm stating it. But for me, I like to wait for the first 30 minutes. That's the reason why we highlight the silver bullet, because the opening range, the first 30 minutes, can either be manipulated or may not be clear in terms of the bias or the narrative for the day. So for me, waiting for the first 30 minutes going into the silver bullet hour, I already have probably a clear view as to what price is trying to do, and then it's fairly easy for me to enter in the market. I don't have any fear, there's no confusion, and that's the reason why we try to highlight the silver bullet, because it just takes a lot of stress off of you. And if you have to miss a very good entry, let's say, you know, the best entry happens right off the open, then so be it. With any model, any style that you're trading, there's going to be pros and cons to it. You're going to miss out on trades, you're going to miss out on perfect entries, and that's part of discipline. Discipline is a bitch sometimes, and you just have to accept that. So the fact that we did open, I want to make sure that I do highlight this, is the RTH gap. So I'm going to go down to a 1 minute and just highlight that. And if you want to get the clear price levels, it's going to be, if you have the new day opening gap on here, should pop up. So this entire level in here would be the regular trading hours gap. There's multiple levels to an RTH gap as well, because if I was to go down into a 30-second, a 5-second, that's where we opened. But then if you look at a 1 minute, this is where we've dug into it, much like a fair value gap. There's a void in liquidity, right? That's a real liquidity void. So what I'm going to do is I'll toggle back and it'll be on there. So I'll keep the RTH gap in mind for today. Oh, interesting. The reason I say interesting is because we have a new day opening gap, it looks like. Yeah. If you see me not answering your question, it's because I'm trying to focus on streaming and try to focus on trading. That top smart, that question, I'm trying to be nice as possible here. Silver bullet and unicorn, those are two completely separate things. Silver bullet is a time. It's a time where you could find an entry. In terms of unicorn, that is an entry within time, within a certain, particularly a market maker seller buy model. So if a market maker seller buy model forms within the silver bullet, then yes, that can be something you can enter upon. what can the RTH gap tell me? It could tell me a lot of things. It could tell me the draw on liquidity for the day. I could utilize it as support or resistance in terms of like a retail mind. I can utilize it in confluence with whatever I'm already using. So there's a lot of lectures on the RTH gap I'm not going to go over. Yes, DG. Sloth. Technically, no, it isn't. I mean, it is, ICT's called it, but the original is the second. Unicorn is the original second stage distribution of a market maker seller buy model, or the accumulation phase.